teaching remedial reading about 7 years ago. And at that time, it was not uncommon at all for me to have children in my class who were 5th and 6th graders who were unable to read anything. I mean, their reading level would be below 1st grade, pre-primer. We used a phonetic program in my remedial class for 2 years, and there was a marked difference in their test scores at the end of the year after using this program. They were able to decode the words, they were able to comprehend, and it was the best results I've ever had. Now my children have been taught by this phonetic method prior to 5th grade. So now when I get them, they're able to decode the words, and I just work on comprehension skills, basically. Before, I primarily worked on just reading the words because they could not read the words. And of course, it was impossible to increase comprehension until they could read. You know, my children range in ages from 10 to 15 years old. And some children were worried about reading phonetically and sounding out words. They thought that was so babyish. But as they realized the method of reading and exactly how we learn to read and exactly the purpose of every letter, I would see such a tremendous change in, just in their likeness for school. They would just learn to love school. They would learn to, they would just love the success they were experiencing. And I had many children that would come to me and beg me not to call on them to read. And then after improving, they could see the improvement. They understood reading. And so they would, they would volunteer, raise their hands and just beg me, and they still do, beg me to call on them to read. And there was a time 7 years ago when my class, you would walk in and I would have to take them separately to get them to read to me. I just don't think there's any other way to teach reading. I think I've tried almost every method. Anything I can do to teach a child to read is what I will do. But I have found that until a child can call the word, there's no way to teach any other reading skill. They must be able to read the word. To me, that is the first step. We can improve reading after they are able to call the word. So I don't think there's any basis at all for that criticism for phonetics.
I must go back to my very first experience as a teacher in 1st grade, and which is a wonderful place to learn about the process of reading, because you are so responsible for teaching reading. And in those days we had a lot of flexibility in how to approach reading, although we had a basal linguistic type reading program. It also was infused with phonetic element to it, which I found myself leaning very heavily on, and found that it was something that you could use throughout the day in all your other subject areas. It was so important in teaching spelling, writing, and I must also say that in those days, 40 years ago, my class load was never less than 40 children in a 1st grade class. So it gives me a lot of concern when today teachers feel like if they just had fewer children in the class, that they could do a better job. Personally, I'm not sure it's in the matter of numbers of children, but what you do with them. I have seen, through the textbook readoption process, which occurs about every 5 years, that different types of reading programs are introduced. But the main thing that I have observed about these different programs that are introduced in the textbook format is that they really don't instruct in how to do beginning reading. I'm really appalled that, and I wonder who's designing these books and why they're not using the research that that we know about how children learn. And I keep seeing reading scores go down and down and down, and yet I find children to be smarter and smarter and smarter in a lot of ways. And so it behooves me that that so many children are not learning to read. I've also seen these different methods or different types of programs. They give it different names: linguistic, developmental, now the whole language. Well, any reading program really should be whole language, I took a course on that not too long ago, and as the the designer of that concept, whole language, admittedly stated, well, that's fine for most children, and we need to read in all areas because reading should be learning. You should read for learning, but she also pointed out you should learn to read first, and that this is not a method for all children. It's something they do with their reading after they learn to read. But the part that's missing is they really don't have that basic instruction for learning how to read. So that's kind of where we are right now with the reading program, I think, currently. It's a current trend. As I said, my last several years have been in the area of special education, and naturally that means we get all of those who don't learn from the regular programs. So we have espoused in our area of special education, I'm speaking basically for learning disabled and mildly retarded children, we know that we have to do something different with these children from what they're failing in the regular classrooms. So we lean very heavily toward phonetic approach. We feel that if they have the keys to unlocking those mysteries of reading, of learning those words, spelling, that they can re-enter the classroom and be successful. I've been very pleased with the last several years with a program that, well, actually I knew about this program when I first started, but now it's kind of a program that has been kind of redesigned with a music component to it, which seems to make an incredible difference. And as I understand, after being pointed out, that anything that you learn with a music component to it really sticks in your brain in a way that you remember it, such as the Pepsi-Cola ditty. You never forget that. You never forget poetry, the little nursery rhymes, because of that rhythm. And I think that, and we know so many of our special kids are kids who don't learn easily through the more visual program that is the modality in which most of the programs fall into. It also has a kinetic component to it, where they get involved with their muscles and with their whole body. And when you've got all the modalities working together at one time, and this is a phonetic program that has that leans on all of those approaches to it that I've found to be very successful. As a matter of fact, I have it right now, or pardon me, I haven't quite gotten used to being retired, but as of last year, I had about 48 of our special ed teachers involved in this phonetic program that I'm referring to, that has, it's a musical approach, kinetic, it's an auditory and a visual, sort of gets them all, and had some real success stories, and generally a very successful program with all of them who are involved in it, and have people dying to get into the materials of the program that I'm describing to you. I had a little girl who had, she had been in a very good teacher's room for about 4 years, and special ed teachers room for about 4